So single window operation of Calibria and Sentio when we need to calibrate the system. The calibration is a relatively complex task. You need to be focused on your probes, verify the contact, setting the parameters of your calibration standards, defining the sweep of the network analyzer, verifying the calibration accuracy, and all needs to be executed one after another. But we don't need an access to each of these parameters every time. We only need to access to such a configuration and specific features only when it's really needed and important. So that is why on Calibria graphical user interface, you only see what is required for you for a particular status of your calibration process. That is just an initial window when we have a setup of the widgets. So it's our dashboard which gives us the quick overview of the system configuration. We have the probes, 150 micron pitch ground, single ground, connected between port 1 and port 2 of the network analyzer, 4-port network analyzer with port 1, port 2 active. So we do only 2-port calibration procedure here. The execution of the calibration process of the calibration player, we have a widget, quick access to all the functionality related with the calibration standards like navigation, selecting the lifetime, and so on and so on, and the widget, the full access for the calibration algorithms here. When we switch, for instance, to the calibration standard, you see that the graphical user interface of Calibria goes away, and now we are focused on the workflow related with selecting a right calibration standard here, checking the lifetime of the calibration standard, and observing the quality of the calibration standard at any time. For instance, if I want to move from one standard to another, let me move to the next through standard. I'm moving to this standard, which is the next on the line here, and I can check here the quality of the standard. It's really used up. I don't really like to use it for my calibration process. We've just moved to the neighbor element, and what we see is this is the brilliant, it's never touched, never used element, so we really like to use it for the calibration process. And I select the tool used for the cal, I select the standard, it's marked that this element will be used for the calibration process. And now I simply can go back to my settings of the Calibria and continue set up my calibration workflow. For instance, I have a full control also over the sequence of the measurement of the calibration standard. And I've just pressed the button and I went to another settings of the graphical user interface. We call it calibration player, where you have a control over the sequence of the measurement of the calibration standards. You have a control over the procedure to move to the calibration standard, bring the probe in contact, and trigger the measurements over the widget of the vector network analyzer. We have a control. This is the widget which we use to compute error terms in the manual mode, verify the accuracy of the calibration process, or even verify qualitatively and quantitatively verification of the accuracy of the calibration process. And we can back up the data and push the calibration error terms to the network analyzer. This is what is available from this particular widget, which is responsible to control the calibration process. And at the very bottom, we have a monitor for the data, different types of the data associated with the measurement of the calibration standard and verifying the calibration process.